I think it's the new battle for who customers will really trust. Are they going to trust an LLM to basically be their shopper agent? Or are they going to trust, say, a Walmart? 71% of customers will tell you they lose trust in the experience, whether it's a website, app, whatever. They lose trust in the experience if it's not translated correctly. We're translating intent, not just literal word for word. We are doing across 22 languages. We're translating millions of items, catalog items per month. Every single translation is done within 20 milliseconds. And so what I'm learning is that the more we can expose AI to our complexity, the smarter and more resilient it gets. And that's actually starting to show up as a competitive advantage.
Hey, this is Carlos, CEO at Product School and your host on the Product Podcast. Today's guest is Tim Simmons, Chief Product Officer at Walmart International. Walmart is the largest retailer in the world with over $650 billion in annual revenue and over 255 million customers every single week. Tim manages a massive international portfolio across 18 countries outside the US. What makes this episode essential for senior product leaders is how he's executing a full-stack platform strategy and leveraging agentic AI to turn complexity into a competitive advantage. During our conversation, Tim shares the advanced frameworks and results driving that strategy. The Orchestrator Strategy, how they build AI agents that automate user stories with an 88% acceptance rate from human PMs. The ROI of AI, a look at their internal translation engine that processes billions of items in milliseconds, cutting costs by 99%. Global versus local, the playbook for building one core platform that scales to 30 brands without losing critical hyper-local nuance. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Product Podcast, Tim.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We've been trying to catch you for some time.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be a part of this, really.
Glad that you are with us. One of our common friends is one of your mentors, and she recommended that we had to get you. We tried to bring you for ProductCon New York, but I'm glad that we're here again.
Yeah, me too.
San Francisco.
Yep.
So it's Chief Product Officer at Walmart International.
Correct.
What does international mean for Walmart?
Yeah, it's a really good question because it's not too commonly known that Walmart has a really broad global footprint. We think about Walmart US, and I think a lot of people also know Sam's Club is a segment of the Walmart business. So they think about Walmart US and Sam's Club. But the reality is that we have a robust portfolio of retail business globally. So we work in 7 markets, and those 7 markets consist of about 18 countries. So sometimes we gather different countries into a given market. And so we have over 30 banners or brands, all retail. So like, for example, in Mexico, we have Walmart as a brand, and it looks just like a super center, very similar to what people would know here in the US. But they also have the Bodega brand, which is a really, really discounted, discount brand. They have Sam's Club Mexico. In Central America, for example, we have multiple different brands. So we've got, of course, also Flipkart and PhonePe in India, for example. So it's a really broad portfolio, and it spans across a lot of countries.
So as you think about the different dimensions that influence the way you design your team with different countries, retail versus online, different brands, how do you put it all together?
It's a great question. When I joined International, so I've been in International about a year and a half. The CEO is Kath McClay. So when I joined, I had worked with Kath at Sam's Club. Prior to International, I was the CPO at Sam's Club. So I worked with Kath there as well. I knew very well what she expected from a CPO. When I got to International, I said, Kath, what would you add to that list of expectations? And one of the first things she said was build a global product organization and uplift the capability. So I had to think about, we had some product managers in some markets, other markets, not so much. So the way I structured this is essentially, I've got product leaders for all 7 markets. And then we've organized the product and design teams around that market product leader. So anytime that we are trying to interact with a market, whether it be multiple countries or just one, I'm able to interact directly with the product leader in that market. They're part of my staff. And then I also have central platform leads that are working on taking Walmart US systems and adapting those to be global platforms. So I have center teams that focus more on the domain platforms, and then I have market teams that focus on the needs of customers and associates in the market. We all meet together once a week, and it's a great dynamic because it brings the market voice to the table of the center. And likewise, the markets get appraised of everything that's going on at the center around the platforms.
I hear you talk about platform, so I want to dig a little there because I can imagine there's some baseline infrastructure that can be repurposed across markets, but at the same time, you want to create some flexibility, especially if you have different brands. So, how do you balance that specifically?
Yeah, we're on a journey there. So prior to this point in time, we had a very decentralized strategy in international. Markets were building bespoke technology stacks. Fast forward to today, we've learned that wasn't such a great idea. If you take a bucket of investment, try to spread it over 7 markets, and build bespoke, that investment doesn't go very far, right? And so I think our markets have struggled from a tech perspective. I think they struggle to compete on technology. And I think if they were here, they would articulate something similar. So now we are working towards global platforms where we build once at the center, and we're largely leveraging Walmart US systems. There's been huge investment in Walmart US technology. So we leverage those systems. We're turning those into multi-tenant code bases, and then we're migrating those into the markets. So what we're trying to do is create a future state situation where the markets are on sophisticated, new, competitive core platforms, but they have the ability to innovate and compete locally by building extensions onto those platforms. So we're a year and a half into the journey. We've made a lot of progress in our top largest markets like Mexico and Canada with our highest priority platforms like e-commerce and marketplace and supply chain. So we're in the middle of the journey. We've got a long ways to go, but the idea is to make them more competitive by being on new cutting edge technology platforms, but also give them the ability to meet local, hyper local needs even when they need to.
And I think that is the key, like hyper localization to really stay relevant at the local level. Because
Absolutely.
Walmart doesn't need any explanation here,
Yeah,
but I guess it's not the same everywhere.
correct. And to your point about we have the different banners as well. So we've got to give them the ability, whether it's just on the front end and it's look and feel and brand tailorization, perhaps, or it might be even something about the model of that banner that's unique and different and has different technology requirements. So that hyperlocalization, we have to enable that. If we roll out technology, or let's talk about like even a specific use case. If we roll out a use case, a specific feature, say that was built for Walmart US, and we try to take that to all of our banners in all our countries, it doesn't always translate. And so we can't expect our markets to reverse engineer into a Walmart US capability. Sometimes that makes sense to do. Sometimes our markets will benefit from something like that. But there are other cases where that would break the business in some way, and we don't want to do that.
I come from the startup world, so I try to simplify as much as possible. So when I talk to leaders from much larger organizations, and I can only imagine the level of complexity that can go behind the scenes, I also heard you talk about the complexity as a competitive advantage. So I would love for you to elaborate more on that.
Oh, yeah. It's hard to articulate the complexity of Walmart Inc. It really is. It's when you think about we service 255 million customers around the world every week. And you think about that scale, right? We have billions of items, again, globally, across our catalogs. We have billions of items, billions of interactions with customers, both, in physical brick and mortar stores as well as online and apps, et cetera. The complexity is off the charts, if I'm honest. Try then also within that complexity to roll out a strategy like global platforms, where we try to meet the needs of the market while getting efficiencies and synergies of build once for everybody. And prior to about 6 months ago, I would have thought of complexity as slowing us down, tripping us up, making it really, really, really difficult to do this work. But with the ability of AI and agentic AI, we're learning something different. What we're learning is that you can actually build agent systems that get smarter based on all the complexity. And so if I summarize it super simple, I'd say the more we train agents and systems of agents on all of our complexity, maybe it's across our 22 languages that our customers speak globally, or across different formats, or it might even be just even nuance. It might be there's a different word for t-shirt in Spanish, depending on if you're in Mexico or Chile. Or now that kind of complexity, normally your translation you'd get it wrong, or it would cause you to slow down and say, well, we've got to look at every word by every market. But with agentic systems, you can train them on these things as they come up, as we find them, so you don't repeat it. In other words, it makes it smarter. And so what I'm learning is that the more we can expose AI to our complexity, the smarter and more resilient it gets. And that's actually starting to show up as a competitive advantage.
Now that you say that, I remember an interview with the CEO of Scaled AI. He was saying that the data that JP Morgan has to train their models on is much bigger than the entire data that OpenAI has
I've heard
for
that.
the public
Yeah.
internet.
It's amazing.
So I can imagine there is something there for you as well.
Absolutely. And the other thing to think about too is everything that we're doing today, we still have a human in the loop, but we're being very strategic about that. We're allowing LLMs to review output, grade even its own agentic output. Like if we build an agent that's task-based and it spits out an output, a deliverable, an artifact, right? We let other LLMs review it for accuracy, for hallucinations, et cetera. All of that input gets fed back in to the system. I talk a lot about orchestration of all these agents, because if you build task-based agents, which is easy and fast to do, and it's highly accurate and highly efficient. But if I just think from a product manager perspective, if I've got now myriads of agents that I have to interact with for tasks, it's still better than I have to do all of those tasks from scratch every time. But I haven't given you a ton of efficiency. I've just given you a bunch of new tools to use. Orchestrators are agents that we're building. Think of them like project manager agents that know how to take the output of one agent into the next agent, follow a workflow all the way through end to end, and only alert the product manager when there's an anomaly detected or when we need a decision, for example. That's proving to be really, really efficient and very effective. And it also helps with this learning capacity, because these orchestrators are seeing across all these different task-based agents, and they're seeing the feedback on the outputs of those, and they're seeing what the human in the loop does at every phase, and it's learning based on that. So again, that's a scenario where complexity is actually giving us an advantage, because these agents are getting smarter and the output's getting better.
So I want to try to go a little deeper there too. I love that concept of orchestrating agents. What are some of the specific use cases? And most importantly, how are you measuring the actual value that they provide to the business?
Yeah, we just had that conversation this morning, actually. True story. We were demoing our latest. So what we refer to as the product development lifecycle, right? We have, I want to say it's 10 agents, maybe more. They're growing fast, but I think we have 10 agents that orchestrate across the product development lifecycle. So we have discovery agents, we have estimator agents, we have what we call product assist. It was one of our first agents that writes user stories and test criteria. What we're encountering here is that this product development lifecycle. So I'm going to give you that use case: a product manager doing their job day to day, and they're somewhere across. Usually, it's rare that I see it in Walmart where there's one product manager has one product. Our scale is so big, usually they have multiple products that they're managing, and any one can be at any point in the product development lifecycle at any given time. So what we're finding is that these orchestrators, the PM just has to kick it off. And they don't have to kick it off with a big prompt that contains documentation from Confluence or customer data, say from our global customer dashboard, for example, because those agents are all already trained on top of those living systems, that Walmart brain, so to speak. So the agents just need to give it a simple prompt. It's a simple, this is the feature we're working on. This is the global platform or technology stack it lives in. And the agents are already smart to that. They've already trained on that Confluence page, for example. They already know about all the Jira tickets, etc. So the PM can now just kick it off, let the orchestrator take it over, take it from agent to agent all the way through the process. By the end, we are ready to hand off to developers, and that happens now sometimes within minutes, depending on whether or not they have to pull the PM for help and get the human in the loop. So that's one example of a use case where an orchestrator is a product manager can kick it off, leave it, and then come back in when they're pulsed in by the orchestrator. Does that help?
And then in terms of the success metric, is it the
Success.
velocity, or what else are you tracking to make sure that there's not just productivity gains in an abstract concept?
Right. Sorry, I left that part of the question off. So what we're doing now is imperfect. I'll just be upfront. Like, we are learning fast on this journey. But what we've been looking at so far is adoption. Okay, how many PMs have we onboarded? And to this point, I mentioned we launched PM Assist first, the user story agent. We've got, for example, like 3,100 product managers are onboarded onto that agent. They use it regularly. So we have good metrics around that. So we have adoption, we have accuracy. In other words, I think it's 88% of the time that agent's output is accepted and adopted on first pass. No revisions needed, no intervention needed, 88% of the time. We're finding that it's driving about a 75% efficiency or time saved. So I mean, if it's spitting out the user stories, I really only have to spend time as the product manager just validating that I like what the agents did and that it makes sense, right?
How nice are your agents? Because you and I were talking about kind of how ChatGPT is always so nice, no matter what you give them.
Yeah. I don't think our agents have the same level of sucking up that some of the other LLMs do, but they certainly are nice. They certainly, and honestly, I don't think we've done a lot of work to try and fine tune personality or anything like that.
And then thinking about external use cases, translation, I can imagine, is huge in an international context or localization. So what is there that you can also apply for value for the user?
It's another great use case where we've got more than a toe in the water on orchestration of agents. So 22 languages. Now, and think about it. We're not just translating, say, a PDP, with text in, say, Spanish or French, that helps a customer understand what this item is. We're translating the full catalog. Like, we have to translate the full catalog and the tens of thousands of attributes associated with items in the catalog. Billions of items globally that we're translating. That kind of complexity is normally, if the old-fashioned process of a human translating text on a page, we were spending, I want to say, $25 million a year on translations, just in international, right? So what we've built is what we call the WTP, the Walmart Translation Platform. We're no good at brand names. But for WTP, there's actually 3 layers of orchestration here. One is we have specialized human translator / cultural adaptation experts that are in the loop and coordinate throughout. So when the machine, and I'll talk about that in a minute, when it brings an anomaly or a curiosity or it detects something's gone wrong here, we bring those humans in and they help write rules. So it's not just, hey, fix this translation or word on the page, write a rule that makes the machine smarter the next time we encounter something like this. So the example of t-shirt having different Spanish variants, depending on where you're at in the world, that would be a rule that could be written. And say in Mexico, I think the word is playera, for example. In Chile, I think it's polera. Or in the US, I think it's camiseta, I think.
Yeah.
I don't speak Spanish. But these humans in the loop can orchestrate rules that make the system smarter. So every one of those that we encounter, normally you think, oh no, complexity, it's going to break the system. It actually makes our system smarter. The second orchestrator we have is the model, or the AI model. We have both neural machine translators as well as LLMs built into this model. They're doing the first pass. So the APIs are sucking all of these things in that need to be translated. They're doing the first pass. The neural machine translation model is doing the first pass translation. The LLMs are reviewing for accuracy and quality and anomalies. So that orchestrator of that model, right, and how it continues to learn based on rules humans are writing, based on the more use cases we give it, the more items we set up, the more context we bring it, the smarter it gets. The third layer of orchestration is more of a data pipes. We've got to make sure that we're piping all the relevant information into WTP that we need. Both the things that need to be translated, but also the signals that make it smarter, the output that it generates, as well as actual results. So all of that and that orchestration is helping us here. A couple of stats on WTP. So we are doing across 22 languages. We're translating millions of its, catalog items per month. We're doing this. Every single translation is done within 20 milliseconds. So many of these are live. So some of this is we're translating reviews, for example, and we want those to translate live and get published everywhere live. It might be like a chatbot that we're interacting with somebody in, say, Costa Rica online, and we need to do translations there of maybe back-end FAQ content that we're going to pull forward, right? And that's real time. So all of this is happening lightning fast across immense complexity. And so far, we've seen huge value. We've expanded. WTP is now doing this type of real-time dynamic translation for over 30 applications now at Walmart. So it's just been a huge unlock for us.
I think there are multiple benefits. One I can imagine is the cost savings, right? You said you were spending around 25 million.
Yeah.
I guess that will be less now.
Today, it's costing 1% of the original cost. So it's been massive cost savings for us.
And I think it's also a benefit for the user because ultimately they don't care who translated this as long as it's accurate.
Exactly. Some of our data, and I can't remember if this was our data or if I read this somewhere, but 71% of customers will tell you they lose trust in the experience, whether it's a website, app, whatever. They lose trust in the experience if it's not translated correctly. So if we were to say in Chile, hey, do you want that camiseta? They lose trust. It doesn't work. And so it's really important we get this right. That's a really critical insight. This AI orchestration for translation, it's actually making us feel more human. It's making it feel more like, oh, there's a human involved here who's getting the translation, not just text right, but meaning right. We're translating intent, not just literal word for word. And when we get that right, it builds trust. It makes us feel more human. And at Walmart, we love our humanity. It's a big part of who we are. Hundreds of thousands of associates greeting customers every day in the store with a smile and saying, how can I help? We love that part of our culture. And if we can mirror that in our technology, the better we'll be and the better the customer experience will be. So it's really important we get it right. And with the complexity we have, I don't think we could get it right at speed, at low cost without this orchestration.
And moving us to a different trending that I see in e-commerce, and we hosted multiple e-commerce leaders here, CPO at Shopify, CPO at Etsy. I was discussing with them the discovery, the time to value, like from the moment someone shows up to your site to the moment they actually decide to make a decision, purchase decision, and how the search is now changing from the traditional nav bar to different ways to interact with the site. So what is it that you are seeing on your end?
Oh, boy. We have entire tiger teams focused on this, the future of, sometimes we've referred to it as the new battle for the search box, but I don't think it's necessarily really that. I think it's the new battle for who customers will really trust. Are they going to trust an LLM to basically be their shopper agent? Or are they going to trust, say, a Walmart, to be their shopper agent? It's early days. I hear different kinds of predictions almost daily about where this is going to go and who's going to compete for it and where are they going to compete. Um, we're very aware of it. We're developing our strategy right now. We're developing our future approach. I wouldn't talk too much about it yet because it's so early, it's so preliminary. But I what we are seeing is the need to understand this space and respond well and compete hard in that space. So how it evolves and who emerges as a leader and how customers respond to LLMs and do they trust them over, say, a brand? That'll be a really interesting development.
Yeah, I mean, OpenAI recently announced their integrations with third parties,
Yep.
right? And like, where do you go? Do you go to your directly? Do you go to a third party? I guess the answer is both. But then once you are in, like, what is that time to value? How are you able to shorten it to a point where like the user gets what they want? And I think that also applies to, I don't know, streaming. Like we had people from Netflix, Disney, and like that's such a key bottleneck.
Yeah. And I also think that from our perspective, so personalization is, that word might even be outdated at this point in time. But because if you think about if an LLM is doing the shopping for you, it's a bit beyond personalization. It's like they know everything about your transactions over time. So they're going to be able to do, I don't know, hyper personalization, right? Um, but one thing that we love about Walmart is that shopping is still a pleasurable experience. We still get tons of foot traffic in our stores. And so we are trying to understand how can we bridge that online digital experience, whatever that future looks like, with an in-store shopping experience where we can be hyper personalized across both, where we can bring the brick and mortar experience into the overall experience. So that's something that we're also really focused on. What's that going to look like? How do we easily enable that? How do we get customers to easily context shift from old way of shopping brick and mortar without, your phone and an app to the second you walk in the store, you pull it out because you're going to have some kind of an amazing experience because of that. So we're super focused on that and how we're going to enable that.
Tim, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show and geek out more on e-commerce, AI, and re-platforming, all the things that you're building. Come across as someone authentic and human, that no matter how big your team, your company is, you're still in the details. And that is something that I really admire from someone who is at the top.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I take that as a compliment. It's been great to be here. It's been great to get to know you better and just share some of what we're learning. I think it's so important that as a community we do that, especially now when things are moving so fast.